Hmm? I don't know what you're talking about. You pin it and then put it in gallery view. Yeah, there you go.
On opening the sutra, Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize Tathagata's true meaning. So this is the last day of our retreat, and I had prepared a talk yesterday, but decided it wasn't right. And I prepared another talk and decided this morning it wasn't right. So I am undone. I don't have the podium here that I would usually have all my notes on. It's kind of a crutch. I feel a little naked without that, something to hang on to there. So what would you like to talk about? What's important to you? You just chanted the Goth on opening the sutra. You did it for nothing. What would you like to talk about? What's important to you? Roshi June I told Roshi, June, you should have given the talk today. She gave a great talk yesterday. She talked about having a real conversation. Let's have a real conversation. What's important to you? What's most important to you? It's a good question. So it might be a hard question. What's really the most important thing to you right now? Why are you here? Why'd you come on this retreat? I'm undone. You're not going to get anything from me.
Any answer could you see as changing motion? Any answer to the question would be grasping.
Say that again?
Any answer to the question would be grasping.
Okay. You don't want to grasp?
Not today.
You're grasping the microphone.
Yeah, I think for me, the reason I came on the retreat and what seems most important or interesting right now is looking more closely, paying more attention to my life.
And what does that look like?
Yeah, it's I think for some people it's going on a vacation, it's going somewhere, it's having an experience or like looking outward.
Yeah,
And it seems to me right now in my life interesting, maybe more interesting to look more closely inside.
yeah.
Yeah.
We, yeah, Zen students, we go to retreats instead of going on vacation. You know, good thing you came here, because if you got on vacation to Florida, you wouldn't be very happy right now. But yeah, I think often if you're studying Zen, instead of, we think of a retreat as a vacation. We're kind of strange that way. So why, so then the next question is, well, then why would you do this instead of vacation? What is it about the retreat that's important to you enough that you would do this instead of a vacation? What does it mean to look closer?
You had mentioned this phrase, appreciate your life, not too long ago. And I feel like there's the deeper appreciation, so there, like in a vacation is a great experience and it's great to have it for a week,
Yeah.
but it feels if maybe there's something I can appreciate after this experience, this 3 days, that feels like it carries into, you know, more so ongoing.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Roshi and Sangha. I came on this retreat to try and get a hold of myself,
How do you get a hold of yourself?
I don't know, but I really am interested in the center of myself. I'm interested in
Where is it?
grounding.
Where is the center of yourself?
Right here. I believe right here. In the Tay show yesterday about being real. Just really wanting to not need affirmation from not wanting to need affirmation.
Not needing approval from others to
Yeah.
be who you are.
To
be okay without needing.
To not get it right according to someone's right. I want to not need to be concerned about getting something right before I can breathe and live comfortably.
Yeah.
I'd like that to be figured out by 6:30 tonight. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I'm glad to want to need that.
I get it. Yeah, so hang on, let me say something now. So when we talk about Buddha nature, aren't we talking about not needing someone else's approval? Aren't we talking about having some sense of the truth of yourself, whatever that means, that doesn't need confirmation? Aren't we talking about love that doesn't need to be earned? And unfortunately, many of us, if when you were a kid, if your parents didn't give you unconditional love, many people have that experience, unfortunately, and you did what you could to earn love, because attachment is really important. Now, I'm using attachment in the psychological sense. Let's be really clear. We are built for attachment. We need attachment. As children, we need to be held. We need to be loved. It's as important as breathing oxygen. So if you didn't get that healthy attachment as a child, if you didn't get loved just because of who you were, then it was it was qualified, right? You had to earn the love to get the attention, to get the attachment. And you learn that very early. And then we grow up thinking, I'm not okay as I am, and I'm always going to need someone else's confirmation to be okay, which is not a very good way to start out relationships, is it? I mean, but we do that. That's part of what I hear you saying. So it seems to me, when we talk about taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, you are taking refuge in yourself, but you're not the self that needs the confirmation, but your true self as Buddha. And your true self as Buddha is already lovable. It's unconditional. It doesn't need anyone's approval. It's already approved, certified, stamped, A+, passed. You were born. You're human. You're Buddha. Isn't that what our teaching is? So, but then it's hard to trust that, isn't it? It's hard to trust that we're actually unconditionally worthy. So easy to, we're all insecure on some level, like we're not worthy. But I think what the teaching is pointing at is that you're fine just the way you are, and I'm so grateful you're being honest. Now, this is a real discussion we're having now today about how we show up here, why we come here. We come here because we want to wake up, right? We want to be true. We want to be ourselves. We want to be authentic. We don't have to be apologizing for ourselves all the time, walking on eggshells. I remember when I was an artist and I lived a kind of wild life, and I wasn't what you would call healthy. And there was a health food store in Venice, California, where I had my studio, and I used to go there to get food. But everyone looked so healthy in there that I'd be walking on eggshells because I'd been drinking the night before or something, and I was just kind of, I just felt like I didn't belong. That's painful. That self-consciousness that you all know what I'm talking about. Being self-conscious, being second-guessing ourselves, being afraid we're going to be found out, Boy, if those people in the store really knew what I ate for dinner last night, they wouldn't even let me in the store. Okay, someone else. You gotta turn this on.
I keep coming to retreats to find the ability to be happy with myself. I want to find a place where nothing can change this. Whatever happens outside, it won't reach me. And I'm still trying to, it's so hard because whatever happens outside can completely destroy my inner peace. I want to be strong enough and find the inner peace in myself, the strength to go forward. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all I want. This is it.
So what is outside? What does that mean?
Things, people.
What are things?
So I used to.
Show me a thing.
Yeah, well, there was me before, like I was trying to find happiness with buying stuff, being with people, being friendly to other people. Like it wasn't me. I know everything is in me. I just don't know how to find it.
So you were looking for happiness outside of yourself.
I used to, yes. I know
now
it's
you're looking for it inside yourself.
inside, yes. I don't know how to
But
find
what
it.
if there's
though.
no inside or outside? What if that's already a false dichotomy? Then where are you going to find it? So it seems to me that you're setting up you're setting yourself up for failure. And I say it in this way: if you think you have to find the peace in yourself, then you have to solidify something in yourself which doesn't need to be solidified, which is going to create the conditions for not having peace. So Dogen Zenji says, to study Buddhism is to study the self. We need to study how we do things, which is what we're talking about now, how we do what we do. And be honest, have an honest, real discussion about how we suffer, how we're not at peace, how we're always pleasing others. And then the next thing Dogen Zenji says, to study the self is to forget the self. Now, what would it mean to forget the self? Well, there's a story about this that a monk went to see Bodhidharma. He said, "My mind is not at peace. Please, great teacher, put my mind at peace." And Bodhidharma said, "Go find your mind and bring it back to me, and I'll put it at peace." And so the monk went looking for his mind, looking for himself, right? Everywhere he looked, he couldn't find it. Couldn't find it. Where is yourself? Is it in your big toe? Is it your soul? Where is that? Is it in your heart? Your head? Stomach? Where is it? He couldn't find it. So he came back to Bodhidharma and he said, "I looked everywhere. I can't find my mind." And Bodhidharma said, "Then I put it at peace for you." Forget the self. That's not so easy to do, right? Why isn't it easy to forget the self? We all have this voice in our head. Anyone not have a voice in their head? we all have a voice in our head. What is that voice in our head? What is it? A lot of thoughts about me, mine, and I. I, me, mine. Myself. Me. In neuroscience, they call it the default mode network. Right up here. And it turns out, they discovered this, that when we are doing nothing, this default mode network is the most active when we're just, sitting around doing nothing. And what this default mode network does is all the thoughts in this default mode have to do with me, mine, myself, me, I. Now, what happens and so that's the voice in our head, seems to me, pretty much. Now, if you solidify the voice in your head, maybe you try to do the power of positive thinking. I'll have a good mantra and I'll just repeat it over, and maybe that works. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you make a New Year's resolution. But that doesn't, so are we that voice in our head is the question. And I think from this tradition would clearly say no. We're the one who hears the voice in our head, which is a different proposition. Now I'm not completely identified with that voice in my head. And when I'm sitting, meditation, if I'm counting the breath, Jules and me talked about this last night. If we're counting the breath, you're coming back from the voice in your head. And the voice in your head is going. and then you realize you forgot the count, you come back. And so you're not solidifying that voice, you're actually coming back to your breath and your body. And in a sense, you're forgetting that self. But that's what creates self. Yes? Now, why mindfulness is important is if we practice meditation like this, what we're doing is we're integrating other parts of our brain that don't have to do with that network. Parts of our brain that allow us to be empathic or to be curious or to listen to others or have a real conversation. Yeah? So if we are isolated and lonely and by ourselves all the time, and that's all we listen to is the voice in our head, and we don't practice paying attention to smell flowers and how we eat food and all the practices of mindfulness, that becomes a kind of solo self, doesn't it? That voice in the head becomes bigger. And eventually, it's a conspiracy theory. It could be. It could be something really nuts because it's not getting anything else from anywhere else. It just becomes its own solid self. And that isn't that suffering? So it's a good, it makes total sense to want to have peace of mind and to want to be able to trust oneself. But I think it's a little counterintuitive. If you think I need to be more peaceful, just the needing me to be more peaceful in a way is the seed for more suffering. Because I'm going to be undone at some point, and I'm not going to be peaceful. But if I'm not just listening to the voice in the head, if I have access to other senses and other perceptions and awareness, then I have it seems to me, more resources to draw from to find that peace when something is difficult. But I'm not necessarily finding it from the voice in my head. In fact, I'm definitely not going to find it there. Huh? So let's be clear. When we're talking about this self, which we all know what this self is, we all have a self. We all have a voice in the head. And it's imperative that we're not going to get rid of the voice in our head. I got it right now. I'm giving a talk. I am giving you a talk. I am responding to you. We all have a voice in our head. But if you don't solidify it, which is really what meditation, I think, is helping us do, mindfulness is to notice that there's a voice in my head, but not take it too seriously. Like Roshi Jun said yesterday, let's not take ourselves too seriously. Then, Bernie used to say, get up in the morning and look in the mirror and have a good laugh. Good way to start the day. So I think that totally reasonable what you said, right? But and it's I think what the tradition is pointing to here is forgetting the self, and it's surprising that when you forget the self, actually you show up here in a way that's more authentically you, but you're not trying to be you anymore. You just are you, because you always have been. And you say, this is Zen, right? It's very direct. You say, oh, that must take a long time to wake up like that. It didn't take any time at all. No time at all. You say, well, that must really be hard. No, it's the easiest thing in the world. And then you say, well, but it's hard for me. Taken me a long time. I've been working on Mu for years. People do. And then you say, well, but then why? Why, if Mu is so easy, it doesn't take any effort, why am I expending so much effort trying to solve Mu? What's the matter with me? And then you have that doubt. Doubt. Now, most religions say you shouldn't have doubt, right? Because you should have faith. But in our so-called religion of Zen, it's just the opposite. We say the more doubt you have, the stronger your faith. The more you doubt, the more you're willing to put everything in question. Question everything. Then you start to have some faith that arises out of that ontological vacuum, and something comes out and you don't know where it comes from. And then the third thing you need to do, Collins, is, great determination, because it is hard. And yet, anyone that's done koan study knows this, that when you solve the koan, you say, how come I didn't see that? That was right in front of me. It was so easy. Why have I been beating myself up for the last year working on this koan when it was right in front of me? Everyone has that experience doing koans. It's not hard. It's actually easy. And it doesn't take any time at all to see more. Okay? That was a long answer to your
I got it, maybe.
No, but we're all here in the same boat. Let's just be humble. We're all kind of struggling with the same things. We all have thoughts in our heads, and we all feel insecure and inadequate and, not up for the task. So life, we get undone by life. Maybe that's okay. Anything else you want to say about that? Oh, your car sort of had you undone. Okay.
Thank you. So the question is, why did I come on retreat? Mm-hmm. And actually, I think it was faith. Faith brings me back.
Faith?
Faith, yeah. And I want to walk the way, walk the Tao. And it's a plunge. And also, I wanted to say that I do have a voice in my head too. I related to that dilemma or this sort of human situation. Yeah. I think that I play go fish with this voice a bit. I play go fish with the voice, in that I both the hearer and the voice, the talker, in the voice in my head. And I find that when I am practicing, the what comes from the silence of the hearer, the listener, is all the more rich. Yeah. And it's leading, not like leading me by the nose, but it's organically unfolding towards a true self, I think, to the extent that there is one in this interdependent, codependent arising Dharma that we practice together. So I think the hearer in my head, along with the voice, I think for a long time I've been hearing the cries of myself. And I'm just it's beginning to dawn on me that I can also hear the cries of the world. And I'm thinking, on this retreat a lot about Kuan Yin and compassion and what it would be like to be open to that. And it seems it will take, from where I sit right now, it seems like it will take more faith and trust in the path to get to that point. But it's thrilling to be there, sort of at the door or at the gate, sort of be there.
Like the gateless gate.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, we speak a lot about non-duality in Zen. Don't be dualistic. All the sutras are saying don't be dualistic. And you hear the word emptiness and shunyata a lot, which sounds like a philosophy, but it's not. And I think the point where we suffer is not always that we're dualistic, but that we're dualistic in a way that is self-centered in terms of me. I'm wanting to win. I want to be right. So we speak of emptiness and wisdom in the same. When we recite the heart, when we do the Heart Sutra for the service, you'll notice that both wisdom and emptiness arise together. They always come up. Prajna and shunyata come up together. You can't have one without the other. And the prajna is the cutting sword. The prajna is what cuts through the duality of me and you, the division that I create in order to construct myself. That self-referential voice is what if we solidify that, we solidify ourselves and we create more suffering. So we speak of wisdom as a non-self-referential intelligence. You see what I'm saying? The voice, the self-referential echo that we have going on all the time, the replaying how we're doing, like replaying a game at football, replaying the touchdown pass. We do that in our heads. That's self-referential. It's not really intelligent, but it's self-referential attention that we all do. It's part of the voice in the head. How am I doing? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I doing it wrong? That is what keeps the self solidified. And so the beautiful thing about the Dharma, is there is such a thing as wisdom. We can't touch it. We can't nail it down. It's not information. It's not AI, by the way. It arises when we let go of the self. It arises when we let go of needing to keep replaying the replay, but we stop hitting the replay button. We just stop. And one of the beautiful things about traditional Zen training is if you're we're not quite that traditional, but in the traditional Zen monastery, they would just keep you busy all day long. You're either sitting or you're working, and you're so busy you don't have time to think about yourself, and that actually gives birth to prajna, wisdom. So wisdom is having faith in the Dharma. I think another way of saying that is I've actually discovered there is this wisdom and I have access to it, and I actually trust that more than the voice in my head. And I'm going to listen to that because that's a no bullshit meter, and it's going to tell me every time I'm doing bullshit. It's going to catch me, it's going to hit me over the head or hit me on the side of the head somewhere, it's going to slap me upside the head and get me straight again. And it could be a little rough. But I'm willing to be honest enough to listen to that, because I know that's going to point my star, to north. I'm going to point to the North Star. I'm going to point that way, and I will have integrity if I do that, and things will go better. And then the teaching of emptiness is simply that there is no self here to solidify. And so prajna and emptiness always arise together, because when you have wisdom, you have emptiness. Emptiness that's a word, right? It's misleading. When you have emptiness, you have everything. When you have wisdom, you have everything. There's no boundaries, no divisions. Then you can see things more clearly. You see that you're a part of everything here. We're not a noun, we're not a thing, we're a process. We're in process. We're always boundless. Yeah, we're boundless. Yeah. Good. Tika, yeah. Yeah, when we take refuge in the three treasures, we're really having faith in the Dharma, Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful. What could be better than the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha? A lot of money in the bank? I don't know. And you'll just be miserable. Yeah, a lot of money in the bank. You gotta pay taxes. Anyone else? What's important to you? Why are you here? What goes on?
Why am I here? I don't know, because I show up.
You do show up. You show up all the time.
Sometimes, usually, I don't have a reason, I just show up. Although I've never quite had a session like this one. You talk about the voice in your head, I think I'm losing my mind. The fact that I would sit here in front of a group of strangers and actually say that. I'm having a good time. Don't ask me why I'm having a good time, I couldn't tell you. I came in this morning, it was a little before 10 o'clock, and I was talking to Jackie. We were having a few chuckles over
breaking the rules. Nothing
Yeah.
more nothing more delicious than breaking the rules and talking during retreat.
Nah, and I've broken a few.
You
let me
weren't
tell you.
talking. She was talking to you. Good time, Linda.
Yeah, right. Oh, I've broken a few. I don't know. And then I got up to turn on the thing there, and I see these three people sitting here on the cushions looking all very serious. I couldn't help myself. I don't know why I just looked at them.
You're not supposed to make eye contact with people. That's another rule she broke. She broke 2 rules.
So I always sit there going, the bong was up, I'm sitting there meditating, and there's a voice in my head. There's 2 voices in my head.
Yeah.
So I'm meditating, and there's this sound in my head. You know how sometimes you hear a song that goes over and over in your head.
There are multiple personalities.
That's true. So in my head, I'm going, there's this, I think it's an opera, whatever. This sound going on in my head. It's going, voice in my head, stop it. Stop it. Okay, stop it. What's the matter with you? Very serious. This it's very serious here. The shame is very serious. Stop it. Stop it. So I said, okay. So I said, well, I'll count. That's what I'll count. And I count. How many out breath? Yes. So I'm going 1, 2, buckle my shoe, 3, 4, shut the door, 5, 6, pick up 6, 7, 8, lay the straight. Stop it! Stop it!
Oh,
Now, it's serious. Okay.
oh, sounds like the trickster's really having its way with you.
I'm having trouble concentrating on what you're saying because all I hear is, la, 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 la. I promise you, I've had no martinis. That's the voice in my head. Stop it.
That's another kind of voice in the head. Interesting. I call it subliminal gossip. It's not necessarily an organized voice in the head, but it's often a song that you've heard or an opera that you've been listening to. I discovered this for myself the first session I ever did back in the early 70s. I was in a retreat with about 60 people at the Zen Center Los Angeles. And it was about the third day of a 7-day retreat. And I was in a pretty good place of, quiet, samadhi, kind of got it all together. I'm not undone, I'm feeling pretty good. And then I heard this song by the Beatles, the Yellow Submarine. I'm not gonna even sing it right now because it'll catch me if I do. And I'll be singing it later on today and I don't want to. But they wrote a lot of good songs. So I found myself singing that song as I was sitting, and it was long too, and I was not stoned. It was long, and it kept going on, and I couldn't shake it. It was like kind of driving me crazy. I thought, what the heck? I'm trying to. I was just having peace. I was all at peace, and now this song is going. I try to sing another Beatles song, but they wrote so many good ones. I get stuck on that one. That's subliminal gossip. Our minds are like a sponge. We just take things in. Advertisers know all about this. They know how to manipulate us. If you're listening to the radio, which I think people still do occasionally, they will play. If the advertiser wants you to not change the channel, they will make sure they play something catchy before their advertisement, so you don't change the channel. A catchy little tune. And then their advertisement will have another catchy little tune in it. And believe me, you can hate the thing they're advertising and find yourself singing that song later on in the day. That's just how it is. So we all have this kind of mind, and it's important to have some awareness that we are easily manipulated by this through advertising and all day long, We are easily manipulated. So you came here to have a good time.
I guess.
Okay. It looks like you're having a good time.
I can high five that.
Okay, Ogetsu.
I came to the retreat, or here at the retreat and home, because this is home. This is Sangha. This is home for me. And I think I like that word faith that I heard from Sky, because there's a faith in this place. There's a faith in this community that I can show up and I can just be here now and practice that be here now, and the rest of the world goes on, and it's okay that I'm not there. And that reminds me too of how much I don't need to be in control, and to let go of that and just be present to the world as I go out into the world, and I get the support and the space to do that here. So that's why I'm here. It's home.
I think of you as a religious person because you're also Catholic, and I think you're very involved with your Catholic faith as
Not
well.
Catholic, heavens no.
Oh, I'm sorry, Episcopal?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. There's a big difference.
They say when they say they have a folk saying in Africa, if you're visiting your family, tie the donkey up right by the doorstep, and if you're going to talk about religion or politics. But you are a religious person, so it's also really interesting that people can take Zen in a very devotional way, or in a very secular way. It's actually possible to do Zen either way, or something in between, which I think is remarkable, actually, that Zen has that capacity to hold any way that you look at it, that whether you look at it as a religion or you look at it as just a secular practice.
It's interesting, if you ask me that, is Zen a religion or a practice, I would say yes. It's both. It's both, and the interaction of both of them for me enriches both. So for example, what I have as my religion, which maybe it's not so much religion as a practice as well, and is that doubt is incredibly important in my faith. And that's supported by my Zen practice, that the experience of not knowing, the experience of letting go of preconceptions and feeling safe in that is very helpful to me in my own religious practice, if you want to say it that way. So
yeah, I think it's not uncommon in religious traditions for people to be punished for doubting, or having questions, or the wrong kind of questions. So it's good that we can have questions and doubt in our practice.
Well, the religious traditions are called mystics, and there have been times when mystics are considered very dangerous.
Yeah.
So yeah, you gotta be quiet about it.
Okay. Thank you, Hogetsu. Jules, you want to say anything? Jules is in, hang on, Jules is in Indianapolis, and she's a teacher at Butler College. This is the first retreat she's been to.
Yes, very first one. So I'm here to expand my knowledge, experience, and understanding of what meditation is. This is also my first introduction to Buddhist tradition and Zen tradition. So I'm learning a lot over the last couple of days. But I guess if we boil it down to what my ultimate goal and hope is I work with survivors of trauma. And I want to create a toolbox of as many tools as possible for folks who are experiencing trauma so that they can, go through that healing journey, and meditation and mindfulness can be a tremendous part of that.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
That's a wonderful aspiration. And it's really in our tradition, we call that the Bodhisattva vow, the vow to save all sentient beings. And Avalokiteshvara, you've probably seen statues of her with 1,000 arms. In each hand, she's holding something like a bell or a hammer or a pencil or an iPhone. All of those are tools she's using to save all sentient beings. All of those, we call them skillful means, or upayas. There are many upayas in our tradition and other traditions as well. Like meditation is a kind of upaya. Grace process, which we teach here, is a an upaya for having resilience when you work with suffering. Nonviolent communication is an upaya for skillful speech when you're working with conflict. So when you take this bodhisattva vow, I think part of what your practice becomes is you start acquiring those tools that you need to help the people you're working with. Yeah, that's beautiful.
I'm typing all this down so I can dig deeper into it later. Can you tell me the name of?
GRACE is an acronym, stands that was developed by Joan Halifax Roshi for caregivers, to help caregivers work with suffering and not get burnt out. It would be very useful for you to learn that as an upaya if you're working with a lot of people that are suffering, so you don't get burnt out.
Yeah.
It's an acronym that stands for gather your intelligence, gather your attention, remember your intention or your motivation about why you're doing what you're doing, attune to self and other, consider what will serve, and then engage. I don't have time to go into we teach it here from time to time at the Zen Center, but it's a very useful upaya.
Well, that's beautiful.
Nonviolent communication is also, you can find lots of videos of Marshall Rosenberg teaching nonviolent communication on YouTube. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Roshi, this self that we create, sometimes it seems to sabotage our lives. It actually,
yes.
I'll do things that I don't want to do in the want of making myself look better. But then looking deeper at it, I realize that I'm not making myself look better because I'm doing.
You're making yourself look better by not looking better.
Right.
Yeah,
it's
tricky.
It's difficult.
Slippery.
But no matter how much I sit, I sit a lot. This self just keeps appearing.
Well, I think we're creatures of habits, and we have habits that are hard to shake. And the ego is, our capacity for self-deception is really great, which is why it's said it's a good idea to have a teacher and to have a Sangha community, because they can help us be humble, and they can help teach us when we are deceiving ourselves, which we all do from time to time. And then we need a good friend, a good spiritual friend that's going to hold our feet to the fire. Yeah. And teachers do this, good friends do this in the Sangha from time to time. We'll have that real conversation that Jun Roshi was talking about, a real conversation, sometimes a difficult conversation that needs to be had. Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about if you think about this in the context of nonviolent communication, we use two metaphors in nonviolent communication, the giraffe and the jackal. And the giraffe is the metaphor for someone that's speaking nonviolent communication and is being proactive and is balanced and speaking skillfully from the heart and has needs awareness and all this stuff that we teach in nonviolent communication. The jackal, on the other hand, is the metaphor for that in us, which doesn't even care about getting our needs met, doesn't even know it's important, never even had a clue, and is always shooting ourselves in the foot, because what we actually need, a need is defined in NVC as something that supports our life. It's not something complicated. We need food, we need clothing, we need understanding, we need friends. And jackals are always shooting themselves in the foot because they don't even know, they don't even realize their needs is where it's at. So they're constantly doing things that make them more angry and more frustrated, and they grab onto another conspiracy theory to, just all the time, So we all have that jackal in us, and mine is quite energetic, actually, has has a lot of vitality, but I usually don't let him out too often. But when he does come out, usually doesn't go very well. I have discovered, and I hurt people when my jackal comes out. So I try to be mindful. Yeah. So I think NVC is a very good skillful means, because you realize that what we actually need is where it's at. We need understanding, but if I talk to you in such a way that I piss you off by blaming you for something, then the chances are you're not going to understand what I want you to understand about me. When I next have something sensitive to say, you're going to say, Roshi's full of shit, he just dumped on me. So we're not going to have a very good conversation. And I started it by shooting myself in the foot by being mean to you. So I think needs awareness is hugely useful in practice. And when I've taught NVC a lot, and I usually ask people when I'm trying to teach needs awareness, because we really don't honor it in our culture. We hardly know what needs are, is to think of what you learned about needs as a child. And usually what we've learned, what's the script you got about having needs as a child when you were very young? And usually if I go around and poll people, it'll be something like one of several possibilities. Needs are selfish. You shouldn't have needs. Even if I have needs, it's bad form to say I have a need. Other people can have needs, but I shouldn't. And often women or girls learn that I'm supposed to take care of other people's needs, but not my own. So we have all these really screwed up scripts that are unconscious about needs. So if you're trying to learn this stuff and you have an unconscious script that says needs aren't okay, it's not okay for me to have a need, it's going to be very hard to actually honor your needs, because you're not going to get it. So the first step is just being clear that needs are part of life, and that when we come from a proactive place of taking care of our needs, we're going to be much more skillful in our conversations with people, and we're going to be more likely to be happy and grateful because our needs are being met. So we're going to have the emotions that go along with that, which are usually gratitude, curiosity, and playfulness, and all those things. Yeah.
I read the book, but I think I need a group around me 24 hours a day to actually put it into practice. It's unbelievable how difficult it is in this culture for me to know what my needs are and to express them in a way that is not demanding, hostile, entitlement.
It reminds me of a Jerry Seinfeld show where he was talking to George Costanza. He said, George, you need to be in Vienna with you need 50 therapists around you working with you all the time. you need one, every hour, a different therapist. You need 50 therapists working on your case. I'm being silly. Yeah.
Take it away from me, please.
He's holding it.
Please.
Well, I came here because Renata made me.
You blaming her?
No, I'm grateful to her. She introduced me to this, and this is my second time.
Yeah.
And I think this time I came because I wanted to have more patience in my life. And I wanted to slow down and notice things.
Yeah.
That's what I came here for.
Okay. Yeah. You can learn to be more spacious, less reactive, less impulsive. Yeah. Again, that's one of the areas in the brain that gets strengthened with mindfulness, is that kind of reactivity that we're all subject to, that we can dampen that down so that we're more likely to be spacious and responsive rather than reactive. It's hard to be patient, though.
Yes.
Yeah. My teacher always, my Zumi Roshi was always telling me, Joshin, you should be more patient. And because I wasn't. I was young and hot-headed. And I always thought, what's the use of being patient? Why should I be more patient? He's always telling me to be more patient. Why is he always telling me to be more patient? Get over it. God. It's hard to be patient. Any other final thoughts before we close for lunch? Jules or Tenzo, any final thoughts?
I came to session because I was feeling kind of low energy and down in the dumps.
How are you feeling now?
Better. So, yeah, we'll see what happens when I go home, but I have a feeling I'll feel better.
Jules has been our head cook for the last almost, I don't know, several years. You've now been our head cook in the kitchen, which is it's a senior position, very hard, because there's always something to do in the kitchen. So when everyone else, when we're all taking naps in the afternoon, the cook she's in the kitchen cutting vegetables and stuff. That's why it's a senior position, because the food makes a difference in a retreat. Have you noticed? And we're getting good food. I always joke, if people knew how good Hogetsu knows, but you don't know, Jules, but if you knew how good we ate, you might come up next time from Indiana and join us. The food's really good. I always say the cook could just fix brown rice and a salad, it would be okay, but they never do. It's always better than that. Okay, any final thoughts before we close? So I want to.
I do.
Yeah.
Not to be answered, but just the curiosity as Roshi's facilitating the sesshin, do you even try to think of why you came other than facilitating? Do you get to figure out, or are you just doing too much behind the scenes?
That's a good question. Well, it's a kind of choice. I made that choice a long time ago to come. And now I have to show up. It's part of my job. I have to. It's part of what I committed to. So it's part of having integrity, I think. I just have to do it. I feel responsible. I also like doing retreats, but I've done a lot of them. It's not a plunge for me anymore. It's not, everything is, I pretty well know the landscape. But I always feel better by the end of a retreat. I'm less reactive too, and more patient with my wife. She'll tell you, maybe, or maybe I'm lying. She'll tell you that. I just feel more, usually at the end of the retreat, I just feel more connected to people, a little bit more intimate, and a little less busy with all my stuff. And that always is refreshing. But it won't last too long. Don't worry. The samadhi will be gone in a few days. Don't worry. This too will pass.
I look forward to sesshin because it's a chance to just do nothing, just sit and just breathe. And that's hard, but it's it's kind of like a vacation for me, because I'm always seeming to be busy doing something. you know, and I need this kind of emptying after being so full of whatever activity, of information, of communication. I just need to just be. And that's really healing for me. Absolutely necessary.
You know, last thing I'll say, it's an honor to be in this seat. It's an honor to share the Dharma with others and to be with you. I have, when I was younger, did retreats on my own, which are hard. I'd much rather do it with you. And there's something about being together with you and sharing, having a real conversation like this. It's a little bit more real than normal. Is an honor for me. And it's the same thing in Doksan. When I have a deep conversation with someone, I just feel grateful that my life is enriched by that, by you, by this practice. So let's leave it at that. And time for lunch, huh?
Prepare for lunch.
So we've been talking here, so I just want to caution you. I'm going to hold you in the container of the retreat through dinner. We have dinner at 5, and I'll allow you to talk at dinner and start getting ready to transition out of this retreat. But I want to hold you in the container of this. I'll do Doksan this afternoon. So if you're working on a koan or something, you can focus on it through the rest of the day without being distracted with people talking. So we've been talking here, but be mindful to go back into the container of silence, except for Linda. No, we're not doing the practice of a meeting. It's not optional. No, sitting at 3. Yeah.
And also I wanted to announce at 2:00, I'd like to lead a Qigong head and face massage, self-massage, and some energy medicine exercises for about half an hour. Yeah, right here in the Zendo, and we can turn on the Zoom also,
June
if you
Roshi
want
is
to.
really good at that kind of embodied stuff, so I want to take advantage.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
If it's optional, of course, but I'll be here at 2:00.